What's going on, you guys? Welcome to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Kepple. If you're looking to create more in your life, and if you want more of anything, it's not about doing more, it's about being more. So I'm excited you're here, and I'll see you guys on the inside. So kick us off with this, Kasia. Tell me all about the Inner Master Experience you're launching December 1st.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Inner Mastery Experience is for really ambitious individuals who want to take their personal leadership to the next level. So it is actually a personal leadership program. It's a 9-month program. It's very intense. It's all about experiential and integration so that we get really connected to what's standing in the way of me being the leader that I want to be in my life. And working through that stuff. And it's a really intimate group. I only take in 6 people at a time. So we really hone in on, building relationships and communicating with different styles and using your voice, being in your power. But really the first thing is having a vision for your life and understanding what's been getting in the way of creating that vision up until now. So.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. And when you talked about what's standing in the way, I think we're going to need more than 9 months for that if I'm in there. So that seems like a lifetime of work. But yeah. let's talk about vision. I think that's so important. Like if I don't know where I'm going, it makes it hard to know which way to go, or if I even got it, would I know? And so how do you, what kind of questions have you gotten the most traction with, and just really helping people get clarity on what they truly want and why?
It's exactly what you just said. What do you want? I have one Inner Mastery Experience group that's graduating in 2 months. So in month 7, and we actually just had our group call yesterday. And I told them, I said, I know you guys are probably already gagging, but I ask them every single day pretty much, what do you want? What do you want? When they're in breakdown, it goes back to what's your vision? What do you want? So the first month of the program, actually, we spend the whole first month around creating vision and clarity, because it's getting to clarity that's so important. It's easy for us to think, oh, I want this, and this sounds nice, and that would be nice. But when we're not clear, making decisions is difficult. When we're clear, it's really easy to make decisions. And so the vision is pulling versus we're being in this push and resistance place of life.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point you made about the vision not being clear, because if a confused mind doesn't think, it just reacts. And if I'm reacting, I'm just reacting to these past pain patterns that I have generally. And I don't want to just react, because that's ego, and that takes a ton of energy, but it doesn't really produce anything. There's no productivity with that. Usually it's just kind of redundant, and it's you're living this same day over and over again, and kind of just getting stuck on the same things, and then you start personalizing the lack of results and feeling bad, and it's that's not the point. And what do you want? That is such an important question. And if you don't have a simple answer, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That just means you don't have clarity, because if you can explain something very simply, that shows deep understanding. And I want to be aligned with a vision that ignites me, not that I feel like I have to do this because I said I was going to. So how do you help the people in the Inner Mastery Experience, and just in the other clients you work with, how do you help them have an openness to change, so to speak? And because some people get married to their vision, even though it's not a vision they want anymore. It's well, I said I was going to do this, or, just trying to be right instead of actually get what they want. So I'm not sure if that question makes sense.
No, it does. And you kind of nailed it too. It's where do you need to be right? and that
comes up. Why'd you look right at me when you said that, Kasia? Who have you been talking to?
It's because, and again, I think if you really truly listen, so developing our intuition is a really big thing, because there is a place to pivot. It's 3 things. There are people who jump around because they don't have clarity. So it's or maybe they don't even want to commit to something. So it's not always a lack of clarity. Sometimes it's a lack of commitment, or a fear of commitment, that has people jump around from thing to thing to thing to thing. And they just, I don't know what my vision is. It's kind of, the excuse is I don't know what my vision is. And the real thing is actually you're afraid to commit. So something that I learned from my mentor, though, in terms of pivoting and not giving up on something too soon, is if you commit to creating a result, create the result. and then change direction if that's what's needed. But do not give up on the result. Create the result first, and then you'll know if this is, where you get to be, or if you get to pivot.
And oh man, that's so good, because so many people, where does everybody quit? Nobody quits when it's starting because it's exciting and fun, and nobody quits generally when they're winning, right? At the end, it's that plateau in the middle that gets lonely and boring, and like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And like, you're not always going to see these big, upswings, and like transformation. Of course, it's confusing and hard because you're creating some version of you or some version of something that's never existed before, and
Mhm.
that's risky. And you know what? It may not work, but that's okay. Like, it's just releasing these expectations of like, well, I need to make the most awesome thing ever. And
Yeah.
so what are some of the really cool transformations that you've seen of the students in the inner mastery experience?
Oh, so many things. I mean, it's, I've had students who leave their corporate jobs to start the business that they've always wanted, marriages that are falling apart that get repaired and thrive. Sometimes it's just, oh, I had a lady recently who hasn't spoken to her mother for 5 years, and through working, and her being persistent and being committed to healing that relationship, she did. And literally the day she reconnected with her mother, so many other things fell into place because it's all connected. But when you're talking about leadership too, like, leadership is all about connection and relationship. So whether people come to me for relationship stuff, relationships always come up and I mean, I do have a whole module on relationships, but it's like people don't even realize that that's a thing that's going to come up, and there is work to do there for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the best leaders are really good at relationships and really good at results. And
Hmm.
I think pretty naturally we're better at one than the other.
Hmm.
Like, out of the box, I'm better at relationships than results. And that's great. But I really need to learn how to, or not learn how, I fortunately did learn how to execute and create results,
Yeah.
because I can't just, sit around and being everybody's best friend all day long. We have to, actually create and move forward. And it's an ongoing process. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
And, I don't need to make these judgments. I'm not static. No one is. And
Mhm.
so, with regards to leadership, what do you think some of the common traits are of the most powerful leaders that you've seen or, studied?
Definitely, like, humble always comes up. And
What does that mean to you, being humble?
being humble is, it's kind of like, I was going to kind of go back to what you were just sharing, but let me go in this direction. Sometimes my mind goes like, well, trains of thought.
Yeah, I've got one of those too.
Yeah. So it's, first of all, knowing for yourself that you don't know everything, and then being able to admit that you don't know everything and not feel weak or inferior or, not good enough because you don't know everything. I mean, that's the point of team. And like you were saying, like, if you're great at relationships but maybe not so great at results, well, all you need is a really strong 10 out of 10 relationship with somebody who is freaking amazing at results, and as a team it all comes together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's pretty important to really understand, like, well, where am I not strong? And that's not a weakness necessarily. It's just not a dominant strength for you, maybe. And I can't resonate with somebody who's perfect because I'm so far from perfect. And
Hmm.
if, people act as if they're perfect, like that's a huge disconnect, because I don't see myself as that way. And I don't think that anybody does. And
Hmm.
not when they actually get real with themselves. And vulnerability is pretty powerful, because that's a really cool way to connect. And humility is vulnerable, and humility to me is like seeing good and value in other people and in their ideas, and
Hmm. Hmm.
being open to a different perspective. And I can understand you without having to agree with you 100%. I
Yeah.
want to honor your energy and your ideas, and I think that's a really good trait. What's another powerful leadership trait?
I think that open mindedness and transparency, what you said, is being open to other people's ideas, because we live in this world today where we discount people because they have a different opinion. And we can all have a different opinion and still collaborate very effectively. And that's where innovation is born, is from opposing views and ideas. So,
Yeah.
yeah, having an open mind and the kindness and acceptance of other points of view, I think, is huge.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so important because that's like unconditional love is what you're talking about to me. And where does love have a place in business? It's like where does it not? Like
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
and obviously I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about unconditional love. Like you're a human, I'm a human. God created us out of love, and when I'm aligned with that, that's the best of me. And the cool thing about unconditional love is like I don't even have to like you to love you, right? I'm gonna like what you're doing, but I still love you. That's why, like see your in-laws for that example, right? I don't have to like y'all to love you, right? Like, but
Yeah.
love means, I treat you with kindness and respect, regardless of how you show up.
Mhm.
And, we don't have to agree on all the same things. Like, my mom's amazing. Of course I love her. And we have different political views. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean I like her any less. Like,
Yeah.
cool. You believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. And
Yeah.
like, whatever. Like it doesn't change the fact that, you are a human and I love you and that's all the truth I need. And like if you can return love for hate, like that is one of the toughest things in the world, but that is one of the most powerful things in the world.
Yeah.
And there's so many people just so worried about being right as opposed to just being kind.
Mhm.
And myself included in the past. Like I would be right to my own detriment in a lot
Yeah.
of cases. I don't care if I get what I want. I just want to be right. And that's so counterproducctive. And anyway, so let's go back to the leadership for just a second. So,
Mhm.
if someone is a leader and they're listening and they're like, hey, you know what, I like to be better at relationships, and like I don't care how good I am at relationships, I want to always be better.
Mhm.
So, what would be some of the ways you would help them see how they could show up better for the people in their lives or the people they lead?
Yeah, that's a big question. I always say every relationship in our life is just a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. So that's where we start. We start to
Yeah.
look at, how do I talk to myself? How do I treat myself? How do I show up for myself? Where am I in my word? Where am I in breakdown with my own self? And then, because if we can get clear on that, we will see patterns of that in the outside, right? So that's just like a very, very, very simple level. Now when you're like in the corporate settings and stuff like that, that still applies, because you will still attract people who mirror to you, where you get to grow. And so if you can actually come from the place of every person is just a lesson, every person is an opportunity for me to be in love, like show up from love, not from fear. It's an opportunity for me to grow, do something different, expand my own self. Then we can start being present with people, because presence, I think, is huge. And just to have, not to have a breakdown in communication, because again, if I'm not listening to you because I'm caught up in my ideas and I gotta be right, for example, I'm never even gonna hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Right? So it comes down to really knowing yourself first. It's I know it's like, sounds not sexy, but
But I mean, that's doing the work, right? Like, because I can't see on the outside what I'm not seeing on the inside. And I think that it's not the people around us, the situations we're in that make us happy or unhappy. It's the thinking in our head and the emotions that come with those thoughts. And with leadership, like if whatever you focus on, you expand, or whatever you focus on, you create more of, however you want to say that. And so
Mhm,
just being intentional about looking for ways to improve your leadership, naturally you're going to find ways to improve your leadership. And
mhm,
one of the simple ways I do that is just watch for great examples of leadership. And leadership is not a position, it's an action and a behavior.
mhm.
And there's leaders in every area of your life if you're just open to seeing it. Like my really good friend got married this past weekend, and now he's somebody else's problem. So no, no, he's great. I love that guy. I'm really happy for him. She's amazing. But the ring bearer, she was so little. Like I don't think he's been walking very long. He's like that
Oh,
young. He's just tiny, and I'm like, oh my god, they make bow ties that small and suspenders. Like he was really
oh
cute,
my God.
and he was super shy. Because I was like, who are all these people like staring at me? And the two flower girls were adorable too. They were sisters. Like there was like a mini me and a little taller one, but they were super young too. And like they like held him by the arms and they helped him down the aisle and they were so sweet to him. They're like, okay, Thomas. And I was just like, that's beautiful. Like, and that's leadership, right? Like that's influence the behavior of others in a positive way. And like it impacted me. And like,
Mhm.
man, what a great expression of love. And that's why like kids are such cool teachers because they're not like corrupted by all these biases that we
Yeah.
grow into. And so I think they definitely taught me just another great example of what leadership looks like. And I know you do a lot of work with kind of the parenting space too. And so, how could you maybe offer some advice to anybody who's raising kids out there to really just show up better as a leader for their families?
Yeah, like it will still go back to this know yourself, like really know yourself, right? Because I think now more than ever, again, we live in crazy freaking times. So if we're not strong in our own self, in our values, the values we set for our home, so first with our partner, and then that will trickle to our children. So it's having clarity of vision for what your family is going to be. So it always comes back to vision. It always comes back to what do you want to create in your home, and then being in relationship with your children, being present. Like our kids have access to so much, so it's really easy to lose sight of certain things. And then kids have are going through all these identity crises and looking for acceptance outside of the home because they don't feel like they belong in the home. And I think that as parents, we're in breakdown in creating that if we're not clear on what's the vision for our family, what are our values. Because if we're clear on that and we're instilling that from day one, our kids just grow up in that.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great way of saying that because for one, if I don't know what my values are, how can I own them? That's like vision, right? Like, I don't even know what they
Mhm.
are. How could I align with it? But that's a huge leadership characteristic that's important is authenticity. It's,
Yeah.
are my actions in accordance with who I say I be or who I want to be? Are they consistent with my values?
Hmm.
And, we all heard it or said it, different ways, but it's like way more is caught than taught. Like I can tell you all the things in the world, but if I'm not displaying those behaviors myself or those actions, then the model I'm providing is not consistent with who I say I want you to be. And that's confusing and it's not really effective, obviously.
No, and like it's so true, Kevin. Like my my son is 17. So I laugh because I kind of really obviously have been observing him and I've been very intentional about my parenting. It's just something that was really important to me to break some stuff that, I didn't want to repeat how I was raised. So it became a commitment on my part. But it is never what I say, it's always what I do. And I've
Yeah.
seen it for 17 years now, and it's exactly what you said. It's caught, it's not taught. Like we cannot just be telling. It's monkey see, monkey do. It's
Yeah.
not what
Yeah.
they hear you say, it's what they see you do, and what how they see you show up. So again, like it's so important, I think, in that space too, like whether, like I always say, you're a leader of your life. Like we're all the leader we've been looking for, and whether that's in our home, in our business, in our organization, like we're there because it's not a position like you mentioned. So having the clarity of what it is that we're here to create it will just trickle out to everything, including parenting.
Yeah. And, at the being intentional about parenting comment, before we kicked things off today in the green room, Kasia was telling me about sitting in the snow at her son's football game. She lives in Canada. They're already doing heavy winter up there. They had snow early October. So I would say, you're definitely present for his life. And like I mean, I still think about all the things my parents, showed up for, even when it was inconvenient, and
Mhm.
just really grateful for that. It helped me tremendously. And wow. So really cool. Good job, Kasia. But, that repetition suppression reflex, which is like, what's familiar gets ignored. Like we ignore what we think we already know because the brain's got so much coming at it. It's always filtering out. And, parents are familiar, so it gets ignored often. It's, happens with our friends or your spouse. And, I was climbing a mountain in Washington with my buddy and he's bald. And I'm like, hey, dude, put a hat on. Like the sun's a little different up here. You're going to get sunburned. And I told him like 5 or 6 times, and he's like, "Man, I work outside every day. I don't need to wear a hat." Like, dude, wear a hat, wear a hat. I kept saying it, and then this random dude went by us on the mountain, and he goes, "Hey, man, you should put a hat on." My buddy looked at me, and goes, "I should put a hat on." I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's a great idea." Yeah, so that repetition suppression reflex. All right, let's
And it
transfer.
is so true. Like I'll just touch on that really quickly
Sure.
because like if you have parents watching, our influence ends at a certain age. It truly does. Like I know my son's still watching, but I invest in coaches for him right now. He has been working with the mental toughness coach for the last 2 months, because he doesn't hear the same stuff, that he doesn't hear me say the same words, even though like I couldn't be saying the same words. He, like, exactly to your point, it is so true. And it's important, I think, for people to understand and recognize in their own children. It happens sooner than we would like to, but that's why, it's really, really important, if you, again, have a vision and your kids have a vision, to provide them outside voices that are the right influence for them.
Yeah, what a phenomenal thing to have a lack of a better term, mindset coach for your son, because I didn't work with a professional coach until I was probably 30, and it would have saved me so much time, energy, angst in my 20s if I would have just had somebody to help me see what I wasn't seeing accurately, hold me accountable to a bigger vision, and
Yeah.
just help me be better. And it's hard too with our parents or friends because we have so many biases, and like we almost know each other too well. And so,
Yes.
what a cool gift. And if you don't have the resources to hire a coach, have them read books, because that's a great way to
Hmm.
really just get new perspectives and insights. And,
Hmm.
I don't think, like the majority of people take the time to read books and like, hey, what's the last thing you read? And they're
Yeah.
like, like a social media post, it's like the last thing they read. And, Mark Twain said it best. He's like, if you can read but choose not to, then you're choosing to be illiterate. And like, man,
Hmm.
I don't want to make that choice.
That's
So
powerful.
speaking of books, what's a favorite book of yours to read, recommend, or give it away?
You know what? With leadership books, I just found this in my bookcase the other day, and it's so old. Like, I don't even know. It's quite old, but it's called Leadership and Self-Deception: Getting
Ooh,
Out of the Box. And it was written by a group of authors. I have to read because I don't even remember it. The Ambridge Institute.
yeah, that
And
one's amazing. I've
have
read
you
that.
read it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
it's so
good.
good. Yeah, yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, it's been so long. I want to reread it.
Yeah, yeah. Man, somebody recommended that to me, and I was blown away. Really, really good. Ooh, all right. What does freedom mean to you here on the Unlock Your Freedom podcast?
Yeah, yeah. The first thing that always comes to mind when I hear the word freedom is choices. It's choices, it's autonomy, it's living life by design, really.
So, where can people go to connect with you and also learn more about the Inner Mastery experience?
Yes, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram at Coach Kasia Bradford, or you can find me on my website, kasiabradford.ca. And there you can just grab a free call and jump on. And I'm happy to share with you any information, see if it's a fit for you, if that's something that you'd be interested in joining. The next session or the next pod goes December 1st, and I still have 2 spots open. So yeah, that's where you can find me for all the things. And if nothing else, I know Kevin had a link to the Launch Your Life call. It's a 45-minute complimentary call. My superpower is really spotting patterns and loops where where you're stuck. So if nothing else, I can definitely help you break a loop that's having you stuck right now.
Ooh, man, what a cool offer. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. I would be all over that if I was you guys listening, because obviously if you're still here, something's resonating, and Kasha's the real deal. She's just a really brilliant leader, coach, mentor, and she's got a huge heart to go with that big brain. So she'll take you anywhere you want to go.
Thanks,
But
Kevin.
it starts with a decision to be different and to do better. So, just we're all a work in progress, right? The
Hmm.
two mistakes that people make with self mastery or leadership excellence are not starting and not continuing to go. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on and sharing today. What's something I could have asked that you'd like to talk about that I didn't ask? And
Oh. Now I'm on the spot. Yeah, you ask great questions. But really, really, connection is currency. So focus on your relationships. Your authority is based on the connections that you have in life. So if you're a leader, really, really focus on building strong connections, be there for people, be a heart-led leader, like show up from heart, from love, and things will transform. If you care, then people will show up for you.
well said. I would definitely second that thought. Choosing love over fear is the best skill you can develop. Alrighty, you guys, make sure you check out Kasha. Share this out. If you found some value, somebody else may benefit from getting to know her and her message. And Kasha, thanks for coming on again. It's just
Yeah.
a ton of fun to get to spend time with like-minded people and like-minded journeys. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye, guys. We love y'all. Alrighty, you guys. Thanks for making it through to the end of the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with us. Really grateful to have amazing listeners like you. Thank you guys again for listening. We love you, and we'll see you next time inside the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Kepple.